Hey y'all, welcome to I Got a Story to Tell. I'm your host, Niambi Kiesha, holistic wellness practitioner, hoodoo spiritist, and Bronx native. And during our time together, I will share some of my musings on all things life, spirit, plants, and parenting. So get comfortable and let's dive right in. So, welcome to another episode of I Got a Story to Tell, the Niambi Kiesha podcast. I am back again for another episode in our community building series, just talking about what community building is, why it's important, and how we can be intentional about it. And so, each week, I have been having a special guest talking about different aspects of community building in their world and why that resonates with them. So, this week, I am super excited to have with me Candace Jennings. And we are going to get into all things spiritual, metaphysical, esoteric. I'm sure we'll get a little bit of yoga in there because that's just what we do. But I am excited to have Candace with us today. I met Candace, I think I would say it was back in 2021, no, 2020, end of 2020 going into 2021. And Candace was one of my gurus, one of my yoga teacher training instructors. And I'll just share this story. I started on a journey to explore my yoga teacher training. I decided what studio I was going to take the training at. I filled out the application. I had an initial interview and conversation, and then I was invited to join Candace's class. And the thing that I remember in joining your class, Candace, was how it just felt conversational. Like the first thing I remember is you saying, and if you feel tight, use your hands and massage your muscles and listen to your body. And I have been practicing yoga probably for 8 plus, maybe almost 10 years by that point. But I was still very much so in the mindset of trying to do exactly what the teacher said or what the teacher did, even if it was to my detriment. And
Right.
so I remember in your class, it being the first time where I was invited to do what I needed and what my body needed. And so that has always stuck out to me. And I feel like that aspect of you is who you have been in my life, right? Just reminding me to honor what I need, honor who I am, acknowledge, where I'm at, and don't, not even necessarily shrink myself, but don't contort myself to
Right.
what somebody else is saying or wanting or doing to
Uh-huh.
who I am. So I appreciate you for that and so many other reasons and what you mean to me in my life. So when I was thinking about this series, I'm like, when we're going to talk about all things, I have
Right.
so welcome, Candace.
I'm excited to be
Wanna
here.
yeah, what share with us?
I'm excited to be here. I'm excited that you're doing this. And as I'm Candace Jennings, and I am that person that has always given myself permission. And to my parents' challenge, right? I always ask why.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because everything was a feeling for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I come to this space with you, honored to be here, excited for your journey and what you're doing, and excited to just be able to reach out and be in community in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Because all that you said about the permission and the invitation that I gave is how we really need to be navigating right now.
Right.
We need to be honoring what we know, what we're hearing, what we're seeing, what we're feeling, the hairs that stand up on our arms, being really aware of our surroundings, and in a peaceful way,
Mm-hmm.
being like not hypersensitive, but having all the things on, having all of you on, open,
Mm-hmm.
receptive, ready,
Mm-hmm.
because we're in that time where we need to really be tapped into ourselves so that we can better sense everything around us,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
um when I came into my yoga journey. When I started working on my memoir, I realized I've always had yoga in
Mm-hmm.
my life, that my mother and our silent walks down the beach barefoot was yoga.
Mm-hmm.
Listening to the water, being with the earth, the elements, grounding, all of those things is what my parents provided me. And I never really realized how much of it is yoga.
Mm-hmm.
That quiet, introspective time with someone I love, saying absolutely nothing, feeling safe,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and in nature, right? It's everywhere. And it's, we're also in a time where the world wants to demonize it. It is not. It is healing. It is love. It is honoring who we are in a world that doesn't honor who we are,
Mm-hmm.
or wants us to be fitting into some box that they've created. I've never been in the box. I never have. And so it has come into my teaching, right?
Mm-hmm.
Giving people permission where they were never given permission before
Mm-hmm.
on anything. And still debating it with people who are older than me.
Mm-hmm.
Why you question everything? I said, because it should be questioned, especially where the time we're in right now.
Right.
You gotta question everything.
Right.
Just to be wiser, not to be in fear. You need to be wiser about everything.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
about
what I
that,
heard you say is you need to question it if the question comes up, right?
right,
That's the honoring, like you said, honoring everything. So if a question comes up, if you're wondering why and you silence that, you suppress that, then you are working contrary to your own internal
divinity,
GPS,
right?
right? The question
It's a
rolls
divinity.
up for a
Right,
reason.
right, right. It
Yeah.
is a GPS, and it is our divinity. That is our navigational system. If we tapped in, if we really tapped in,
Hmm.
there's nothing to question. But well, there's everything to question and nothing to question, in that if I know I am divinely guided, if I know that my creator that has looked out for me my entire life, and the spirit team that has looked out for me my entire life are still present, which they are, they still nudging me, tapping me, pushing me, sending me scents. Ooh, smelling my mom
Hmm.
really softly on her birthday, which was a few days ago, right?
Hmm.
That's medicine for me. That doesn't hurt anymore. It makes me smile. It makes me know she's here, that she has never left me and she is in me, right? If we start to really hone in and honor that we are divinely guided, they're asking us to ask the question. We are being moved to ask the question, because we also need to know that the people that are guiding, or the people that we're interacting with, know what they're talking about
Right.
for
Right.
real.
So sometimes you're asking the question just to get it in the atmosphere,
Right.
to bring the awareness. Can you answer the question? I actually might be asking the question and I know the answer. But
Right.
if you out here acting like you leading this ship, can you answer the question?
Right.
Right. And
It's
I feel
all
like
it's
another,
all of it.
say it
It's all
again.
of it. It's just that it's all of that. Right.
Right.
Go ahead.
Um, But you also touched on the senses, right? Even when I see you express your eyes, your smell, your hands. And so it's understanding we have all of these senses as well to
Right.
be utilized as tools, as, however you want to think about it. But so many of us don't see those as a key piece of the puzzle. We'll smell something and not pay attention to it. We'll hear something, so understanding, for me, the senses remind me of how much we are part of this cycle. We are not separate and apart from nature, right? And when we tap in, like you said, the senses allow us to smell the flowers, smell the roses, but smell when something is rancid, smell when
Right.
something can poison you. The senses allow us to feel the wind on our body, but also feel when the heat is too hot and you might get burned, right? So understanding in our society, and so a part of what I was talking about with this community building series is the fact that all throughout history, there are stretches of time where the norm or the world order is in place and generations of people live within that. And then there are those sort of like milestone, capstone, pivotal moments of change, right? And I believe we are in one of those. We are watching the creation of a new world order. And there will be those that will simply continue on their path and wait for direction on what this new world order will be. And there will be those of us that are doing the work to contribute to what that new world order looks like. And that's the key for me when I think about community. The communities that we build now, the conversations that you and I are able to have about awakening, awareness, everything esoteric, ascension, symptoms, all of those things. When I think about community, it's important for me to have someone. I was actually just talking to Phyllis about how I appreciate that I can text her or I can pick up the phone and call you and say, I rolled over in the middle of the night and slammed my head on the edge of my table and I think I cracked my third eye.
I won't forget it. I won't forget it. And how's it been? Right? It's a
Life
whole new world.
change.
It's a whole new world. Bing, and it's not the third eye, it's the first one. I'm
Right.
changing my language around that really hard now that I'm doing the series I am on the chakras, right?
Okay.
This is the first eye.
Right.
This is the one that is connected to the brain and the pineal gland and the nervous system and the light that comes through that allows us these to work, right?
Right.
This is the first eye. This is the intuition. This
Right.
is the understanding, overstanding, understanding. It's
Right.
all right here. And
Right.
then when this gets cracked open, then it's the top beam. The crown is open for the exchange highway, right? It's both to
Right.
receive and to be open to, right?
Right.
To absorb and to expel and expand that out into us and our community. And I think this goes back for me in the ways that we also talk ancestral tribal, right? This is who we really were.
Right. Right.
This is who we are as people,
Mm-hmm.
as a tribal nation of spiritual conscious beings. That's who we always were.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it was demonized and it was all the things and it was try to erase,
Mm-hmm.
trying to erase the mighty and the divine that is who we are. And
Mm-hmm.
I try to remind people that are panicking in this time, you got gifts. You got gifts. You got power.
Right.
And the more you stand in it, the less, because when you stand in it and you stand strong in it, and when a community comes together and they stand strong in it, it ain't happening.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
ain't happening. When I call him Dum Dum, when Dum Dum first ran, I was harassed in the grocery store, minding my own business.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to pull up into my warrior, my
Mm-hmm.
Candace, my Kandaki, right? Who I am,
Mhm.
a war, ancient time, right? I embrace the idea of my name. I embrace the idea of my power, and I don't doubt it for one moment. And that makes us super powerful.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
the world will have us forget all that and live outside of ourselves in the, ooh, what's that? Oh, I need to buy, oh,
Mhm. Mhm.
the external world of being distracted,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We have to come in, and we have to come in. We have to, everybody has to come in and be open again, because not everybody's open. I moved into this community thinking it was going to be, I was home
Mhm.
out of being in a community that I was in for 9 years that got colonized, right? I got to come home to the real Charlotte, right?
Mhm.
And it's not warm and fuzzy. It ain't feeling like family,
Yeah.
right? No eye contact, no speaking, couple of
Mhm.
people.
Mhm.
But for the most part,
Yeah.
we've
You
forgotten that.
touched on you touched on a lot. You touched on a lot.
I'll be quiet and let you go,
No,
because
no, 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 no. This no, I want to just loop it back, but this is so I want to you got me all worked up. But
okay.
I want to start so two things I want to say. One, I feel like what we just displayed and what people will witness is why community is important because it went from me sharing a physical experience to you being able to shed light on what that experience was, how it evolves, how it's nothing for me to be afraid of. Because even as spiritual beings, we just before we started, we did a card pull, and the card talked about the fact that even as physical spiritual beings, we have chosen to incarnate in this human experience, and we have to learn how to be human. And so there are moments on my journey where some of the stuff that I'm experiencing sounds crazy to me. And if I did not have someone to express it to, that is not met with shock and awe, it's met with what you just gave me that normalizes it, that levels it out. That is the power of community and tribe. That's why I keep using those terms interchangeably. And when you talk about this is who we are, the thing that I wrote down also is the world and the society that we're in right now would try to have us forget, but it's in our DNA. It doesn't take a lot for us to remember. It really is just a little bit of silence. And that's where the capitalism and the consumerism and the distractions and the going. And I talked about this with my last two guests about the importance of disconnecting from time to time, finding your silence, listening with what you have going on inward, hearing your own voice. Because when we think about being the ones who remember,
Hmm.
our story has always been passed down through storytelling. When you're getting your hair done, when the food is being cooked, when the house is being cleaned. But also, to your point, our communities have been disjointed for a number of reasons. Some very intentionally and racially motivated, but some purely like how I ended up in Charlotte. I had a desire for a different experience. So I moved. We live in a society now where you can move across the world, across the country, but wherever we go, if we understand the importance of community, we will find our people and our people will find us if we stay true to ourselves, if we go inward, like you said. I like that, inward and inward. And I talked about that in the first episode, that maybe all your work is to identify why you don't feel community is safe. You shared where you are, no eye contact, lack of trust. If you hear my voice, Maybe you're not ready to jump in community because you have trust issues or because you've been hurt or because, and maybe your first step is to just realize that fear will paralyze you
Right.
and you have to find the value in facing that fear. The reward is so much greater than what we think we're saving ourselves from. So I just wanted to touch on those few things. Like when we think about community, my girlfriend from the last episode, she shared that her episode, we were talking about homesteading and gardening and things like that. And she ended up moving to upstate New York. And she's in a neighborhood where there are not many African Americans, there's not many Black folks. And so when she was excited about the homesteading and the gardening, when she would go out, she desired to gravitate toward people that she wanted to be in community with, but it was not received. It was not met. And so part of her conversation was she had to figure out, do I want to be up here alone? Or do I find a way even to be in community with people that don't look like me? Right. And so some of the tenets that I shared about what I think is important when you're looking to build community is safety. Do you feel safe in your community, psychologically, emotionally, right? And the reality is sometimes we can find ourselves in environments where it's just not emotionally, spiritually, or psychologically safe to be in community with folks at that time. But we have to acknowledge that, but still set the intention, still show up as ourselves. Still, sometimes we become the safe place. We are people's experience of us, my experience of you broke down walls within me. So sometimes that's our work to show up and be the safe place for people.
Right. I think too that as I'm listening to you, how am I showing up? And just me being my authentic self. They don't know what to do with me.
Right. That part.
Possibly. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I am not your average person. Ever. I never have been. So
Mm-hmm.
I had to, I and I have to um redact a bit. When I first got here, I always seek confirmation from team. Am I really supposed to be here? Is this the right place? Is this the right move? Because we communicate. And the way it showed up was twin flame energy by name cuts my lawn
Mm-hmm.
without even asking.
Mm-hmm.
Then I find out to my other side is a reflection of my elder sister who had Down syndrome.
Right.
And when I found that out, I teared up. And the person that's like, "Whoa!" I was like, "No, it's just the final confirmation. I'm here. I'm supposed to be here."
Mm-hmm.
So in my bookends, I have what I need. And
Mm-hmm.
then my next step was to find out if I felt safe, which was to go for a walk.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then, as you know, it was interesting as I got farther from my home, more people spoke,
Mm-hmm.
which was interesting, because I'm that aware. I don't navigate just like there's nothing casual about me,
Right.
right? I'm always aware. As a dancer, I was a dancer and still, but a strong, hard dancer for almost 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had a physical sense of me and my strength and my centeredness, and that transitioned into yoga as the medicine from paralysis to ground me, to help me find my grounding, to help me find feeling and stability and strength again, and then the confidence to navigate what I was dealt with,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I need to know that I can move.
Mm-hmm.
And I do, and I don't always feel my feet, but I need to move, and I need to know. I want to know my community.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know my community. And they're showing me who they are.
Right,
They're
right.
showing me who they are, and I'm note to self. That's all I do with everything, really. Note
Mhm.
to self. But I also have to remind myself what I look like in my community. I'm that person that they don't know how to.
Don't know what to do.
I'm a
Yeah.
unique. I'm a unique being, and I know that, and I know
And
what I
you
radiate. Go
I
ahead.
was gonna say, and you alluded to it a little earlier about how some of our practices have been demonized, right? So sometimes what we know we're bringing in love has ideas for people that is something to stay away from or something to be scared of.
Right.
But what I heard you say is, I got the confirmation that I needed, that I am where I'm supposed to be. And all I'm ever going to do is show up as myself. I feel similarly. I shared in the first episode about my neighbors as well, right? So, do I absolutely love every aspect of the area that I live? Yeah, maybe not. But I have my neighbors. So that is one layer of my community. My children know my neighbors. My neighbors are in tune enough with how we move in this house that, like, if my car don't move for a certain number of days, or they are in tune enough to sense if something is off. And that's important to me because, like I said, we're more spread out now. It's not similar to the time when maybe you lived on the same block for 5 generations, but I had to be intentional about creating safety and community around my home to anchor my family. But then also community around my spiritual practices, community when it comes to my hoodoo practices, community when it comes to work, right? And making sure that I have these safe places, but also understanding that my job is just to show up as myself. I just read the other day and it said something like, if you walk around with a mask, like, your people won't know how to find you. Like, basically you'll attract people that are the people of the mask. They
Right.
won't know how to find you.
Right.
So
I like.
what advice would you give someone that is moving in this day and age, maybe with fear or not, and they're like, I need some sort of community. I feel alone. There's a large loneliness epidemic. Um, where do you think people should start with trying to build that for themselves?
Tapping back into the idea of us being ourselves. Um, in my moments of being outside in my yard and doing the things that I'm doing to prepare myself so I have food that I want to eat in the little ways that I'm doing it. Like, I'm not digging in the ground. I just have buckets, right? In doing that, I start to see my neighbors come out. The Spanish family across the street. When she tried to catch my eye, and we always just, hola, ¿cómo está? Muy bien. That's all I got right now, you know. But I know more. I want to do better because I want to be able to communicate. They do speak English, but I want to honor who they are. So in that one little exchange, we look for each other now.
Mhm,
And if I'm out there in the morning having my tea or coffee, they're getting their child has a physical challenge, and so they're in his we getting him set in his chair to get him on the bus. So
mhm,
I see that, and I'm here for whomever,
mhm,
I'm here to help. I get to see the man that comes out and gets his things. So I'm finding little ways to just be present,
mhm,
be in my safe space, but being public,
mhm,
right? And I'm seen. Um, Kind of like mystically, I kept looking at this house over here, and it looked like, you know how some of the old paintings of people in head garb and white, and all you see is this brown space that it's a brown face, but there's no detail of the
Mhm.
face, so it looks like a shrouded. So I keep seeing this. It moved. It's a person, and I have been watching this, trying to catch up. Like, it looks like a person, but it's not. What could it be? It's a person. And I saw them shift today, and I was like, okay. So all this time, I'm connected to somebody I don't even, who just looks. It's like a spiritual entity
Mm.
out of the visual of it. And
Right.
so they're observing me because we're in perfect line view. There's no obstacle in between us. I'm
Mm.
burning my incense. So all of the things that I do, I know what it looks like.
Mhm.
Do I care? It's who I am.
Mhm.
I'll light a candle outside. I
Mhm.
will burn my incense every day. That's what I always start my day. I light a candle, I burn my incense, I say my prayers, I talk to my team. What are we doing today? What would you like me to do today? What would you like me to do different today? Like, we're in communication when I, sometimes even before I open my eyes, but I'm aware of that,
Mhm.
right? So I think for a person to just be out,
Right.
doesn't have to be far. Go for a walk.
So not only being out, what I heard you say is it's amazing because it's really not complicated.
It's not.
It's always going to come back to knowing self. Go inward because not only are you out, you're out doing things that honor who you are, which
Right.
therefore is drawing to you, right? You actually don't have to go seek, you don't have to go looking for with expectations because that's the other thing that happens a lot. I have a girlfriend, we were talking about this desire that she has for connection and community, but she has all of these expectations. She has said, "Well, what are you doing?
There it
What are
is.
you bringing?" Because I'm a firm believer, right? The law of attraction tells us anything that's in our experience and in our awareness, we drew it in. So if you are drawing in people that are showing up a certain way, you need to take stock of that. You need to think about that. But you are entering a space where you have a desire that you would like fulfilled, but you've made it somebody else's responsibility to fulfill that for you. And we find that a
Manipulation.
lot. I love that your feedback around how to first seek out community is go inward, find the things that you enjoy that bring you peace, that contribute to how you want to eat, that contribute to how you want to start your day. Do those things and like-minded energy will be drawn to you and your community will surround you and your tribe will make its way to you. I think that is a really important piece for people to understand, and then think about what do you have to contribute. That's another thing that I said in terms of the tenets of building community. It should not always be give, give, give. I need. How do you pour out? How do you make this work for those that are coming into community with you?
And then when we all start doing it, as I come and go in and out of the community, I'm looking to see who else has a garden.
Mm-hmm.
Is there
Mm-hmm.
anybody else that might be growing watermelons? I'm growing tomatoes and peppers. Can we exchange? Because
Right.
that's what we need too in this time, right?
Right.
We've got to really find the community that is self-sustaining in the pockets that we live in,
Mm-hmm.
right? Who's got a garden, and can we barter if the food stops showing up, the produce stops showing up in the grocery stores because the migrants have been deported?
Right. Right, right. And well, you hit a good point. Also, self-sustaining doesn't mean that you have to be able to do everything. It means you know what you do. I have the peaches. Who has the corn? Who has the rice? Who has the beans? Who has the strength for the labor? Who can mind the children? This is where, like, how do we put these puzzle pieces together to create community. But the first part is knowing yourself, knowing what you bring, knowing what your role is, what seed is planted in you, what are you going to harvest, right? And so, yeah, I think it's bringing it up to the piece about the time and space that we're finding ourselves in. I think even beyond this administration and what we're seeing unfold in our country, I think we're also just being challenged to know that this way of life in this country is not the only way. There's more than one way to skin a cat. That's the saying that I say all the time. And getting back to the place, when we talk about remembering the way that you awaken your grandmother's dreams, your great grandmother's dreams, your great great granddad's dreams is by doing things. And then you'll start to have those flashes. Then you'll start to have those memories. Then you'll be ready to ask somebody, like, well, did somebody in our family do this or do that? You know, it's in our DNA, and it has not gone anywhere, right? It is in us, and we can remember it, we can act on it, we can live it out. And the hoodoo piece to this is we can heal up things by having experiences that our ancestors could not. We get the opportunity to heal up 7 generations back, 7 generations forward. So, this community work, when we talk about getting to this place where we don't want to be in community with each other because we've been socialized to believe that we are the perpetrators of what causes us harm. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that sometimes we aren't, but I'm saying that if we look at the whole system, I was listening to something the other day, and this brother was saying we have to understand what proximity does to us, right? And so if you live in a crime-ridden community, all you can see is the results of the impact, but you are in close proximity to the crime. And so all you want is to feel safe. You want the crime to stop. And in that moment, your brain is not able to process through that this is systemic, that there's a reason, there's a cause, that it has been trickled down. But we have to challenge ourselves to understand it doesn't all just start here at base level, and that by going inward, healing up some of our own wounds, doing our own work is how we can show up as ourselves and begin to build community with our neighbors, begin to build trust, begin to feel safe, begin to figure out what I have to offer that can complement what you have to offer.
I think too, one of the things that I recognized, where was, oh, when I think I told you the story. I was walking, I always, wherever I live, I think I had just not just gotten here, because I got here, I hit the ground running, and it was a blur. I didn't finish, I still haven't finished unpacking, but I need to know that I can get somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I know it doesn't seem too far for me to walk up to the this plaza where the
Mm-hmm.
grocery store is. There's a post office. I was like, I got everything I need. And fortunately, they're starting to close stuff down in that plaza. But I need to know that I can get there. So I'm walking up there, and this elder pulled over, and she's like, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I'm going," shocked at first because nobody's been talking. So she said, "Where are you going?" I said, "Up to the store." She goes, "That's too far. Get in the car." Now, my mother comes in and is like, don't get in the car with strangers. Like, but Candy, it's an elder. She's trying to help. I have to have this little coaching session with myself
Right.
because I'm independent. I need, just who I am. So she's like, "You need help?" I said, "No, ma'am, I've got it." So I fold up my walker. I put it in the back seat. I get in the car. She introduces herself. She U-E's in the road, takes me up. This woman is 96 years old.
Mm.
I can't remember the last time I saw an elder. And I just found myself looking at her because I haven't seen an elder in years.
Mm-hmm.
And why is that? Because I'm not around them. It's not in my world. My view is right here, really, because I teach. I teach virtually. I
Mm-hmm.
counsel. I do everything mostly here, or I'll, invite. If once I get to know you, you can come and sit on my porch, have tea, and we do what we do. And I hadn't. Then it made me say, "You haven't seen elders, and you haven't seen babies. When was the last time you saw an infant?"
Mm-hmm.
And that absence of those parts, those aspects of what community is, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're unsure about where to go hang out with some elders.
Mm-hmm.
They probably could use some support.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If there's a mom, like what I was invited to a luncheon on Saturday, and we were all nibbling and noshing on the amazing food Cherie made. And mom, one of her friends is a new mom. She comes in. The first thing Cherie does is takes the child from her so she could eat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? Little things that are big things for a new mom who has to breastfeed and nourish her child and navigate a room full of people that she doesn't really know and get something to eat. Cherie navigates because she wants that kind of communal world,
Mm-hmm.
that we're all here. And it was a room full of women
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
all coming together to figure out what are we going to do to help the world, our community.
Yeah.
We're doing the same thing you're doing in
Right.
these little pockets. But this is the beauty of this, right? Now we know you're out here doing it. There's another there was 8 of us, another group of women that are doing it. And the question was, what can you offer in this time?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I said, I'm a great space holder, right? I can hold space for you to help you navigate past whatever stuff is in your way to finding who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's again, we keep coming back. And are we running? Uh, Bob Marley, you're running and you're running and you're running away, but you can't run away from yourself, right? You can't.
Right.
You got to love this, fix it, nourish it, nurse it, fix the wounds
Mm-hmm.
so that you can't run from yourself, which is your ancestors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if we understand, like through yoga, the bodhisattva, it is that the idea that there is God in everyone we see, and we have to remember that so that we can navigate accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
They may not know their God inside themselves, but there is one.
Right.
And we, as the people doing the work and practicing and studying, and we know that. And so that energy shifts and embraces and holds them until they find that God.
What I love that you demonstrated is that and I think it's important for people to get this and understand this, and I share this with people all the time, that there is no special sauce to how I show up in the world. And I may have a disposition that makes it look like I do hard things in an easy way. No, I struggle too. I have difficulties, but I make a moment by moment decision. I make a day by day, one foot in front of the other decision. And so I love that you shared, even in the place that you find yourself, you had a conversation with Candace that this woman is trying to help me. She's not about to kidnap me. She is expressing.
She's 96 years old. You can take her. Right? Get in
But
the car. You can take her.
you had that conversation, and that is the thing. How do you have these internal conversations? Challenge yourself, challenge your notions, challenge the things that try to keep you afraid and keep you paralyzed from fear. I share all the time. I genuinely believe in my heart that people want to help me. Now, sometimes people laugh about that, like, oh, whatever, Niambi. I'm like, okay, like, live your life. But I genuinely believe that people want to help me. They desire to help me. It brings them joy to help me. And when they see me coming, they're trying to figure out how they can help me. That's what
Yes.
I believe. And that allows me to not jump to the default of the negative, not jump to the default that this person is trying to cause me harm. It doesn't mean that people don't ever try to cause me harm, but I rest in my knowing, right? Going back to the five senses, I rest in my knowing that if you do have ill will for me, my spidey senses are going to tell me and then I'm out.
Right.
No harm, no foul. I don't get caught up in places too dicey for too long because once my gut is like, girl, let's go. I'm like, okay, come on.
Right. Come on, girl.
You ain't got to
Right.
tell me twice, let's go. Which way to get out of here? But I
Right.
don't live in that because then that means all of the opportunities where somebody genuinely does want to support me, I would miss them.
Right.
I would miss them. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, this was so good, Candace.
It
Is
was.
there anything else, anything that you haven't shared, or any thoughts that you have that you want to just share with our audience?
Yeah. So I just think awareness is so important. And that's what got me in this journey because I always was physically aware as a dancer, but I had to be more aware of feet that I couldn't feel.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
I had to be shored up and sturdied up in my deepest parts so that I wasn't falling over or falling imbalanced, right? I had to build my balance and stability, literally and figuratively,
Mhm.
right? All of this is literal and figurative,
Yeah, yeah.
right? If we're living in all of the realms like you talked about, if we're earthbound and we're spirit inside the earthbound skin suit, we're navigating all of this over and over again in however whatever direction. So we got to be fluid, we got to
Mhm.
be aware, we got to be open, we got to be observing, we've got to be listening, we got to be silent, so we can really hear the unarticulated voice, right? It's
Mhm.
articulated inside our ear, but there's no chatter. Chatter's different, right? Other outside voices. We need to be so hyper aware so that we can all be aware for each other.
Right. I feel like what you shared is uh a collective community. Collectively, we are coming into community and we need to. Collectively, we need to be making eye contact with our neighbors and offering a simple wave. Collectively, we need to be out in public showing people what we do so that our people can find us and we can find our people. Collectively, we need to combat and push up against our fears that we are the enemy and the perpetrator so that when someone offers us a ride, we can accept it. Collectively, we have to go inward first. This is how you start it. We have to go in so that it can come in. And that is really what I'm taking away from our sharing about community. It doesn't.
Honored to have been involved with this with you. And it's
Yeah.
always, we could talk forever. I know that. We've
I
done,
know, but this was
what
really
did
good.
you,
Huh?
how far did, I'm looking at the time. I'm like, we went far beyond what you said, but
No,
that's
no,
the
no, no,
beauty of
no.
it.
It's always good. It is always for the good of the greater and of the collective. So, thank you. I really do appreciate it. We probably will have to have a part two. Everyone that has come on, we have ended by saying we need a part two. Because this is
Right.
good
And I would,
conversation. And for
right.
me, this is me being obedient. This is me knowing in my heart that there are people that want to hear conversations of value, of how can they help move their lives forward. They just don't want to be distracted, but there are people that just don't know how to start. So I feel like these sharings and messages and conversations that I'm having um, are needed and are desired in the world by people. So I am grateful that you chose to lend your voice to this episode of I Got a Story to Tell, the Niambi Kiesha podcast. So thank you guys for hanging out with us. I will be continuing the community building series probably for another couple of episodes. And then we will see where spirit guides us. Until next time, take care. Thank you.
Everyone.